Hi there, here's Christina from Changing Parenting. And usually I'm very much in favor of using the right words to express emotions and teaching your child the correct words for feelings, because it's really important that they understand the difference between angry and frustrated, for instance. However, I do believe that there is no one size fits all when it comes to parenting. And when I work with families, I don't try and, fit you into a general instructions manual. It's always about what is your child's instruction manual, right? What is the manual that would fit your family? Because everyone is different, every child is different. So this example might not fit your family, but it was a kind of a outside the box solution that worked really well, and I want to share just in case maybe it also helps you. So what was happening in this family was the mom was feeling very overwhelmed because she was dealing with a lot of things, like most moms are, right? You have so much to do, and her child was usually not cooperating, so she always had a lot on her shoulders, and her child was constantly triggering her by giving her even always extra work, like leaving her his stuff in the middle of the way, for instance, not putting his stuff away, and other behaviors that she found very challenging. And at the same time, her child was really having also huge meltdowns. And what was happening was that in the midst of all those meltdowns, he wasn't able to express through words what emotion he was feeling. He was only 4. So 4-year-old usually already can do this, but again, not all children are the same. So in his case, he was so overwhelmed with his own emotions that he couldn't really express in words if he was angry and what was also happening was when the mom expressed that she was feeling overwhelmed or that it was too much for her, the child was not really empathizing. Because again, children, I've specialized in ages 3 to 6, and in this age group, children are very egocentric. They already start to feel empathy. And again, in this age group, a 4-year-old usually is already able to, see how another person is feeling and kind of slowly put himself in his shoes, in that person's shoes. But this child was still very much like, okay, you're feeling like this, but I'm playing, so I don't really care. Not because he's a bad kid, because there are no bad kids, just this developmental stage, right? Every child is different. So in this particular family, this child, he was very into robots. He loved robots. So we came up with this solution where we did this, like the robot is either green or yellow or red. So when the robots are green, everything is okay. When they are yellow, things are starting to get not good. And when they are red, they are already bad. So this way, he didn't have to think about emotions, what the words mean. He just had to focus on these very easy to understand green, yellow, red. And again, I'm not saying that this is what you should do. As I said in the beginning, I'm a strong believer that you should teach your child the right words for emotions. But as I said, every family is different, every child is different. And in this case, it was something that turned out to be very helpful. So what happened was that they did this as a family. So mom, dad, children, every time that one of them was starting to feel not good, they would say, I'm starting to feel yellow. I'm starting to be red, And this worked really well because the child immediately stopped and immediately understood. So for instance, the mom would say, can you put away your shoes? And the child would ignore her or be like, you put the shoes away. And then the mom would say, I'm starting to get yellow. And the child would put away the shoes. So it started working. And amazingly, she recently told me that they were having this situation where the whole family was getting red. So it was a power struggle. And the child didn't want to go to the kindergarten. The parents wanted them to go to the kindergarten. The older child needed to go to school. And everyone was with it was stress in the mix, right? Because it was time to leave. And those situations usually mean power struggles, right? And it was very hard for everyone to keep their cool down. So what they did was a mix between the robot solution that I just talked about, which was an out-of-the-box thing that I came up with that worked wonders, and one thing that is a positive discipline tool called family meetings. So not really the way we do in positive discipline, because again, it has all these steps, right? But just in a very easy, simplified way. So what they did was each one of them said, I am feeling red. And then the mom asked to each one, what do you need? So she asked the child, what do you need? And the child said, I need to stay at home because I want to play with my Legos. Then she asked the dad, what do you need? And he said, I need the kid to go in the car because I'm late for work. And then the mom said, well, what I need is for everyone to slow down because the screaming is really getting on my nerves and I'm getting very red. And then the older child, she asked, what do you need? And the child said, I just want to have a normal family, because she's a teenager. So then what did they do? Okay, they told the younger child, we need to find a way that everyone goes back to green. What do you think we should do? And this is really good, because power struggles usually come from when a child needs to have control over their lives. They need to feel some age-appropriate power. So when you ask them, what do you think we should do? You're giving them some power, and this is really, it can shift the situation. It doesn't mean that you're going to do what they want, right? It just means that you are, passing the ball to them for this discussion, this family meeting, right? And then the child said, well, I think that we should all stay home and play. And by then, everyone was a little bit more almost green, right? In between the yellow and the green already. So all the emotions were starting to dissipate, because everything, when you actually ask each person, what do you need? Everyone feels like validated and everyone feels heard. And this is really important, right? And again, this is what worked in this family. In other families, it might be different, right? But this is what worked in this family. I wanted to share just in case it might work with you. So the child said, I think we should all stay home and play, of course, right? And then the mom said, well, unfortunately, we can't. We need to go to the kindergarten. And the child said, but I don't want to go to the kindergarten. And then the mom said, sometimes I also don't want to work. And then she asked that, sometimes you also don't want to work, right? And they explained to the child, sometimes their bosses are really mean and they don't feel like going. And unfortunately, they have to go because they need to make money to buy toys and to buy games and to do things, to buy food and all those things. And then they let him choose what to do after kindergarten. So at the end of the day, they went to the calendar. They have a family calendar. This is also one thing that I told them to do that was very useful also for their family. So they have a family weekly calendar, and there are some activities for the child to choose, like coloring, listening to music, going to the playground, things like that. So they went to the calendar and said, you can choose, and again, giving choices is great for power struggles. You can choose what we are going to do when we come back home from kindergarten. And the child chose the indoor playground. And that's the way it went into the kindergarten. And does this mean that you have to go to the indoor playground every time your child doesn't want to go to the kindergarten? No, that's not the message of this video. It means that validating, giving choices, giving age-appropriate power works wonders when there are power struggles. And if you need help with your specific family and to get a manual for your specific child, for your specific family, check out changingparenting.com or let me know in the comments what you're struggling with and I give you a tip to help you.